Right, today is the 29th of August 2018, and this is Sutta study recorded in Bali House in Jurong East, Singapore. Today we're going to reflect on SD 51.12, the Keta Desana Sutta, the discourse on teaching the fields, or the fields discourse on the teaching, S42.7. In the Burmese and Sinhalese suttas, the title given is Ketupama Sutta, the discourse on the parable of the fields. It is a very important and famous discourse given by the Buddha on the priorities that he gave to whom he teaches the Dhamma. This teaching is given in response to a question asked by a Jain, actually, a headman by the name of Asibandaka Buddha, who often asked the Buddha Dhamma questions. So let's go straight into the sutta now, on page 167. The Keta Desana Sutta, the discourse on teaching the fields, S42.7. At one time, the Blessed One was staying in Pawarika's mango grove near Nalanda, or we can also translate as outside Nalanda. Then the headman Asibandaka Buddha approached the Blessed One, saluted him, and then sat down at one side. Seated at one side, the headman Asibandaka Buddha said to the Blessed One, "Bhante, does the Blessed One live in compassion for the good of all living beings, or does he not?" Right, so this headman asked the Buddha, "Are you compassionate to everyone alike?" And of course the Buddha replied, "Yes, headman, the Tathagata does live in compassion for the good of all living beings." "Then, Bhante," said the headman, "why does the Blessed One go about and teach the Dhamma thoroughly to some, but not so thoroughly to others?" This is a very interesting question. It shows that the questioner, Asibandaka Buddha, actually follows the Buddha, listens to the teaching, observes how the Buddha teaches. So there is a word here we need to understand. Here translated as thoroughly. The Pali word is sakacca. Sakacca usually is translated as with respect. Here again, we follow what is called the rule of context. You have to see the context. What does the word mean here? How do we look at this word? From what is the nuance of this word here that reflects the situation here? Of course, technically we can translate sakacca here as with respect. So the Asibandaka's question will be, "Then Bhante, why does the Blessed One go about and teach the Dhamma with respect to some, but not so much with so much respect to others?" It doesn't sound so right, though, although technically it's correct. For example, we say that the Sangha is sakacca, they are respectful to the Dhamma, for example. Or we should give dana to the noble ones with respect, sakacca, sakacena. So, of course, we can interpret sakacca here as meaning with respect, respectfully. And what does respect mean? It means to accept people as they really are. So when the Buddha teaches the Dhamma, he teaches to his audience according to their ability, according to their readiness, in respect to their level of understanding. So in that sense, we can also say that the Buddha does teach the Dhamma with respect to everyone. But in the sutta, we will see that the Buddha gives us some details. He talks about the three groups that he talks to. So now the Buddha answers Asibandaka Putta's question 5.2. Now then, headman, I will question you in return about this. Answer as you deem fit. Now here we have an example of the Buddha counter-questioning the questioner. So he says, well, basically he's saying, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions and tell me what you think. Here the Buddha is readying the questioner for the answer to come, so that he's mentally prepared to better understand what the Buddha is saying or trying to say. Alright, so the Buddha gives a parable. Now, what do you think, headman? Okay, this sentence alone is very important. It underlies the spirit of the whole of the Buddha's teaching. What do you think? The Dhamma will flow with the mind of the intelligent and the wise. So if you think carefully about it, you say, yes, it makes good sense. So the Buddha often asks, what do you think? He doesn't say, listen to me, I say so. All right? In this case, he says, what do you think? Because the Buddha knows that we have that capacity, we have the necessity to think for ourselves, to see this truth for ourselves. It's not something that the Buddha has introduced himself, but he points out this truth. It's out there, something true and real. What do you think, headman? Suppose a farmer has 3 fields, one excellent, one moderate, and one of poor, hard, salty, bad soil. Okay, so the farmer has 3 fields, one good, one middling, one bad. When that farmer wants to sow his seeds, which is the field wherein he would sow first? The excellent one, or the moderate one, or the poor, hard, salty, bad, the one with the hard, salty, bad soil? The last one is the one of poor, hard, salty, bad soil. Of course, this Asibandaka, the headman, is intelligent enough, and he replies, Bhante, when the farmer wants to sow his seeds, he would sow that foremost field first. Having sown therein, he would sow that moderate field. Having sown therein, he would or would not sow that inferior field, one of poor, hard, salty, bad soil. And why is that? Because in any case, it may do for cattle fodder. So there. So we have here the Buddha is using our knowledge, something that we already know, something we understand, we accept, and something which is real out there. And then the Buddha takes that as a bridge and goes on to teach something which he has to say. Then the Buddha continues to section 6. Headman, just like the best field are my monks and nuns. I teach them the Dhamma, that is good in its beginning, good in its middle, and good in its ending, both in spirit and in letter. I make known to them the holy life which is wholly perfect and pure. Why is that? Because, headman, they live with me for their island. They live with me for their cave. They live with me for their shelter. They live with me for their refuge. Or you can read as, with me as their island, with me as their cave, with me as their shelter, with me as their refuge. In other words, the monks and nuns take the Buddha as their one and only teacher, as we should today. So, and they are ready, they have dedicated their life to listening to the Dhamma, practicing the Dhamma. Then the Buddha continues, then headmen, just like that moderate feel, are my layman disciples and laywomen disciples. I teach them the Dhamma that is good in the beginning and so on. Okay? So the second is the moderate feel. Now let me just quickly explain the pericope for the Dhamma here. The Dhamma that is good in the beginning, good in its middle, good in its ending. The beginning here refers to moral training, the middle refers to training in mental cultivation, and the third refers to training in wisdom. So these are the three trainings. Both in spirit and in letter, or both in the spirit and in the letter. Meaning here, the Buddha teaches according to the understanding, the ability, wisdom of the listener. The Buddha teaches the Dhamma sometimes directly, just as it is, or in the letter, using beautifully crafted words, stories, parables, metaphors, and so on. Of course, it also means that often the Buddha's teaching, the Buddha word, after the Buddha has taught the Dhamma, we call it the Buddha word, has to be clarified, interpreted in that sense, so that the audience can better understand it. And then the audience or the listener goes on to practice it, to complete the process of learning, so that the listener understands the truth for himself. And the sentence I make known to them the holy life, that is holy, perfect and pure, right? Holy, perfect and pure. So this Vinaya, the training, monastic training, the precept training for lay people, are perfect in the sense that they will bring you the fruit of wholesomeness and goodness, and they purify us. They calm our minds and clear our minds in preparation for understanding the Dhamma. Okay, so the second field is the moderate field, and this is the Buddha represents the laymen and laywomen, because we too take the Buddha as our refuge, and we take the Buddha as the teacher. Okay, so, but here again you notice something interesting here. Both the monks and the lay people are said to be like fields. The monks are said to be very rich, very fertile fields, but the lay people are said to be moderate fields. We'll have another set of parables to further clarify why the Buddha says this in a moment. Now we go on to the third part of the Buddha's answer, section 8. Then headmen, just like that field of poor, hard, salty, bad soil, are my outside sectarian recluses, Brahmins, and wanderers. Now notice here the Buddha also say my outside sectarian and so on. He uses the word my, not to show ownership here, but it's a conventional term meaning they have come to me. I welcome them. So that sort of a personal welcome by the Buddha. To them too, says the Buddha, I teach the Dharma that is good in the beginning, good in its middle, and good in its ending, both in the spirit and in the letter. I make known to them the holy life that is holy, perfect, and pure. Why is that? Because if they were to understand even a single sentence of it, it would be to their benefit and happiness for a long time. Okay, so there you are. We have these three fields. The fertile field, monks and nuns, they are the ready listeners, they are very careful to understand, and then they practice. Now, today, if we really carefully look, there's really little difference between the moderate field and the bad field. There is very little difference between the lay followers and the outsiders, because there's so many teachers, and each teacher presents a teaching in their own way. And sometimes we hear some teachers from the various Buddhist countries giving very strange interpretations of the Dharma, even defining basic and key terms in different ways, which can be very confusing to the lay people. So the lay people listen and they say, oh wow, this teacher is, he's got his own interpretation of words. And that's about it. They do not really understand what's going on. They're unable to connect the teachings. So, in other words, here, what has happened is the teacher has put himself first and the Dharma below him, which is quite an upside-down situation. The task of a teacher is to interpret the Dharma as it is, as intended by the Buddha. And we can only know this, or even come close to it, if we practice meditation. We have that sense of mental calm and clarity, and we carefully study the suttas, see how they interconnect, and with our own inner calm and clarity, interpret the Dharma in the spirit and in the letter, in truth and with beauty. Then the listeners, the audience will understand better. So now, with all this very challenging situation, various idiosyncratic presentations of the Dharma, we can get a situation where the followers of one teacher will say, oh, only my teacher is right, and they are stuck with those views. And another group stuck with their own views, say, oh, my teacher is the best, so they are fans of this popular monk. So you have a problem here. They're not really listening to the Dharma of the suttas. They have listened to the Dharma of the teachers. So even here, if these kind of people, whether they are followers or they are outsiders, if they are to understand even a single sentence of the Dharma very carefully, for example, the Buddha's teaching on impermanence, that will be to their great benefit. So today we need to interpret this teaching to this level, so that we can awaken these people for a moment and say, hey, look at the Dharma directly, not at the teacher. Put the Dharma above the teacher. And we're telling the teachers, please put the Dharma above yourself. Interpret the Dharma. Do not change it. Do not confuse the audience. Right, so this is the first part. Now then the Buddha continues with the second set of parables, 3 more parables. They're called the 3 water pots. Suppose, headman, a person has 3 water pots. One pot is not cracked, not letting water seep through and go to waste. So this is a good pot. One water pot is not cracked, but water seeps through and goes to waste. Okay, certain kind of pots that somehow the clay is such, it is porous, so water does seep through. In other words, it will not hold all the water that is poured inside. Some goes to waste, but you can still drink a bit of the water. And one water pot is cracked, and water seeps through and goes to waste. So this is the third kind of pot. So you have the good pot, the seeping pot, and the cracked pot. So these are the we can understand quite clearly the three kinds of lay disciples. Okay, this is one of my disciples who have come to listen to the talk. Okay, all right. So here the Buddha explains section 10. Headman, just like the water pot that is not cracked, not letting water seep through and go to waste, are my monks and nuns. I teach them the Dharma that is good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the ending, and so on. Okay, so there you are. Of course, the sutta doesn't say what's the meaning of not cracked. A good pot, of course, we can understand this. Here, the Buddha is using this image, and Asibandhakaputta understands it. And I'm sure many of us who listen understand this too. But then again, it's good to put into words. What is it that we understand? Otherwise, we understand something amorphously. We're not clear about. If somebody were to ask, okay, what do you understand? And they say, oops, I don't really know. So this is where we know it's there. It's like behind the curtain of our mind, but we do not really know what it is. Okay, so this pot, which is good, represents the monk. So this monk is like a container. They contain the Dharma, the teaching. And they have no leakage, so their practice keeps their mind strong, and no defilements can come in from outside to assail them. They are like this very wonderful ship or boat sailing across the waters, and as long as no water from outside get into the boat, they are safe. So this pot is like that. It is good, and it works very well as the container of the Dhamma. And then the lay people are said to be leaky pots. They're not really cracked, but water seeps through, right? Well, we are forgetful. Lay people are very busy, so they are forgetful. That is why the Dhamma is often repeated many times. And if you look at the section for lay people, the Nikaya for lay people, the Anguttara Nikaya, there are many teachings there which are repeated to remind the lay people of the key teachings, the important teachings. Very often the Buddha would say, here you are, this is the teaching, practice it. But then people say sadhu and then they forget about it, they come back, they listen again. So the Buddha has to go on repeating the Dhamma so that we remember it. So this tradition of repetition in early Buddhism is to help us remember, is to stress the vitality of the Dhamma. So that's the lay people. They are quite good pots, but somehow the pot is made of porous material, so some water does go to waste. We do forget the Dhamma, we do break the precepts, and we are a little slow in practicing, unlike the monks who are represented by good pots. In the case of the third person, or third kind of person, the pot is cracked. So the water just goes through, very little is actually contained, if at all. And these are the outsiders, the wanderers, the sectarian recluses, and so on. So here, even if there's a bit of water, if you're thirsty, you drink the water, it helps you. So these wanderers, if they can understand just a couple of sentences, it'd be truly good for them. In other words, they have created this good karma, they will come back, they will listen to more of the Dhamma, and then they will see the light and become streamliners or even arahats. Right, so as the Buddha says about these wanderers, if they hear even a single line of teaching, it will benefit them. Why is that? Asked the Buddha. Because if they were to understand even a single sentence of it, that would be to their benefit and happiness for a long time. Now, for a long time here, that does not mean they will be enlightened. They have to make that move to come closer to the Dhamma, to come closer to the Buddha, to listen to the Dhamma. So what the Buddha is saying, in other words, they have created that helpful conditions for them to come closer to the Dhamma, and that will last a long time, so they can come anytime. If not while the Buddha is alive, maybe in the time of some future Buddha. And the teaching ends there. So when this was said, Asibandaka said to the Blessed One, Excellent Master Gautama, just as if Master Gautama, one were to place upright what had been overturned, were to reveal what was hidden, or were to show the way to one who was lost, or were to hold up a lamp in the dark so that those with eyes could see forms. In the same way, in numerous ways, the Dhamma has been made clear by Master Gautama. I go to Master Gautama for refuge, to the Dhamma and to the community of monks. May Master Gautama remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge from this day forth for life. So here we see Asibandaka taking refuge again. He has done it before, I think. So he says, well, take me as a lay follower. So we see here someone who listens to the Dhamma, who follows the teaching, and that person we call, who is a layman, as a lay follower. So let us constantly reflect on this advice given by the Buddha. If you are a monk or a nun, you have done enormous good karma to have been born at a time where you can renounce the world in the name of the Buddha, and to be able to practice the Dhamma. So that, up to that point is your past good karma. It stops there, in a manner of speaking. You now have to make use of the present good conditions to keep your nisaya, your basic 5 years as a monk, not as a novice monk, as a monk, so that you truly become, feel, live, think as a monk. If you spend the time as a novice or within the 5 wasa of Nisaya, wandering around like a tourist, without mastering yourself in the suttas, without grounding yourself in the suttas, as you grow old, you may reach 10 wasa or even more. People look at you and see your age and think that you're wise, but you're not. But you will be fooled into believing that you're wise, and the audience also, the followers, your followers, the lay people also may think so, but you'll find it is the blind leading the blind, as mentioned in the Devijja Sutta. So use this wonderful opportunity of being the most excellent field to let these beautiful Dhamma crops grow in you. Let the Bodhi tree grow in your grounds, so that you at least attain stream winning in this life. Even if you feel attaining Arahathood is difficult, that's the least. Even monks are reborn in the lower realms, and I think they do so faster than lay people if they break the rules, because you have avowed yourself to take the rules. And if you break it, you will go down into suffering states, as mentioned in the suttas. On the other hand, if you do good deeds, you'll be reborn in the heavens, but then again, it's temporary, and then you are not on the path, so you again go through the snakes and ladders of samsara, and you go down to the suffering states again. So you have to attain at least stream winning in this life, to stay in the safe zone where you can still practice the Dhamma. That means the human world and above, to be born in a suitable, conducive place for Dhamma practice. And this also applies to the lay people. You should not excuse yourself and say, oh, we're just lay people, we're busy and we can't practice. As lay people, we should and we can easily, constantly reflect on impermanence for our mental health, even in daily life. And if you reflect constantly on impermanence, this practice creates this wonderful habitual karma, which the Buddha declares in chapter 25 of the Samyutta Nikaya, in the Okanta Vagga. You will attain stream winning in this life itself. Now we've come to the end of this study. Let us close with a short reflection. We are still born within a living memory of the historical Buddha. In the centuries after the Buddha's passing, many have lost their way, even great teachers, introducing new teachings which are against the teachings of the historical Buddha. But today we have all these ancient suttas available to us. Let us go back to the sutta. Let us carefully study all the suttas so that we bring the Dhamma, we come closer to the Dhamma once again. Reflecting in this way is very good karma. By this good karma, may we be blessed with the courage and wisdom to aspire to attain at least stream winning in this life itself. And also may we be blessed with good health and the right conditions, the wisdom to continue with our practice. And also may our loved ones, those who are practicing the Dhamma, to be well and happy and see the true Dhamma in this life itself. And by the power of the three jewels too, may all those who are lost or have difficulties with the teaching too, see the true teaching in this life itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.